probably the biggest note this month, and I think there is a very clear catalyst for why it happened, but NWA-TNA handed out 1-year merchandise contracts to his wrestlers prior to Wednesday night's show. I believe this was the August 20th show. While the top wrestlers took the contracts in stride and some of the younger wrestlers were thrilled to receive their first contracts, some of the mid-card talent who had worked for major companies in the past were concerned over the terms of the deal. Although the wrestlers were told that the deals are strictly for merchandise purposes, some of the veteran wrestlers are of the opinion that the contracts would prevent them from working for WWE. The general concern amongst these wrestlers is that if they sign the contracts, they will not only give up any chance they have of working for WWE, but also lose negotiating leverage with TNA. The wrestlers have been told that they can attempt to renegotiate their deals before the end of these contracts, but the wrestlers wouldn't have any leverage in that scenario because TNA would already have them signed throughout the year. The wrestlers are also contracted because the standard mid-card contracts are worded in a manner that suggests that TNA officials do not have to guarantee the wrestlers a particular number of dates throughout the year. So TNA have decided to actually start locking people down, and there's a very good reason for this, because Alexis Lurie signs a WWE deal this month.
I like how the write-off was like, we're going to cut some hairs.
We're going to trim her hair a little and she'll never be seen again. And this is not the first person. We had Paul London being poached in the last few months as well. So I do think they've reached the stage where it's like, these are the young promising stars that we're hoping to be the next AJ Styles or the next America's Most Wanted. So we need to start locking them down because WWE are going to start taking them instead.
Because also Alexis Lurie would have been their women's star for the foreseeable future because she was the only one actually being pushed as a wrestler.
Yeah, it would have felt like her and Trinity would have been the foundation of that division. And there was Desire before she broke her back, of course.
Yes. But even Desire was more of a personality.
Yeah, whereas Trinity and Alexis are getting in the nitty-gritty, doing moonsaults, doing DDTs, getting their hair cut, having fireballs thrown at them. The general stuff that comes with pro wrestling and TNA.
Yeah, I was going to say, the TNA experience through and through.
So yeah, they lost Alexis Lurie, they lost Paul London, and now they finally reach a stage where they're like, alright, it's time to start locking them down. There are some wrestlers who think the concerned mid-carders are making too big of a fuss over the situation. Where else are they going to go, one wrestler asked. If Vince wanted them, he already would have called. Which is kind of harsh, but also very true.
Damn, what the fuck?
But listen, if you're TNA and these guys are like, we don't want to sign contracts, we want to potentially go back to Vince, it is a little it's a little filtering system, isn't it? Of well, these people don't really care about being here.
I don't know, but can you blame them? There's one money place in the business at this point.
That's true, but if TNA keep having their stars poached, there will never be a second.
That's fair enough as well. But that requires faith, and would you put your faith in this company, in a company that's constantly disappointing you and working you?
No, I probably wouldn't.
Yeah.
To be fair, August 2003 TNA is only kind of like that. We'll talk about that later in the episode.
Yeah, but I don't know if the other 9 months of me being here would convince me otherwise.
Many of the TNA headliners, including AJ Styles, Raven, and America's Most Wanted, have already signed 1-year deals. The word going around the locker room is that TNA officials are trying to sign most of the wrestlers who are working under 1-year deals to 1-year extensions. So they are trying to become a real wrestling company now. After, signing people to short-term deals, signing people to half-year deals, they're like, we need to start getting this roster locked down. And to be fair, you kind of see that on the show as well, as we mentioned, that they do have a much more consistent roster.
I like contract talk. I'm looking forward to that being a thing moving forward, even more so. I just find it interesting.
Just the thought process that goes into if you're a D'Lo Brown, I don't know, is he the person, one of these people in the mid card who are wary, but I'm just picking an example. If you're a D'Lo Brown sitting and looking at how you've been used in TNA so far, would you be a guy that's I want to tie myself down to this company? Probably not.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? And how sure are you that you were going to go back or go there for the first time?
Yeah, whereas the contrast with someone like Raven, who has been heavily pushed, heavily featured, and has maybe already burned his bridge with WWE, he's probably yeah, sure, I'll take a contract.
And he's I'm allowed to work other places still.
It's just, TNA has right of first refusal on both my dates and my hair. Again, we'll talk about that in a minute.
I was going to say, we're getting into the point that we talked about a couple of weeks ago, where TNA has started requesting and asking other companies to kind of filter everything through them.
Which to a degree I get, because listen, you're the national cable company and you don't want some other small indie company using your contracted stars in a way that you either disagree with or which harms your company. But also, you're still TNA, come on.
Yeah, well, because like I think there's a level to it. Like, hey, we don't want our world champion to lose to Paul London. That's probably fine, right? But I remember the one line was that they were gonna ask companies to continue their storylines if they booked their guys.
Oh, so use them like TNA are using them?
Yeah, so if you wanted Raven and you had CM Punk on your show, you had to continue the Raven Punk stuff. Or if you wanted AJ on your show, you had to continue, like, sort of that character. Which was an interesting choice. And I remember, this is coming from the Through the Years podcast, obviously. Ring of Honor was like, no.
Especially because like the AJ Styles that is on TNA is very different to the AJ Styles that's on Ring of Honor as a performer. He even talked about, we mentioned the quote about it on the last episode, where he's like, I'm doing sports entertainment in TNA and I'm doing wrestling in Ring of Honor.
I believe the big sort of impetus for all this was the Raven and working obviously really big roles in both Ring of Honor and TNA at the same time. That's kind of what brought it around. But we also did see it with AJ a couple months ago with the Paul London stuff.
An interesting part of the contracts given out is that they include medical insurance. No idea to what extent, and obviously I don't believe that lasted very long, but listen, I guess it's something.
I think this is my bold take, Garrett.
Mm-hmm.
I think wrestlers should be given medical insurance by the companies they work for because it is a business in which they hurt their body literally every day.
That is a bold take.
Don't I know it?
James Mitchell was contacted by someone in WWE about coming in to manage Mortis, or at least he was telling people that, but he was also given the impression he might not take the offer. He was thinking he could earn more money at his regular job in Orlando than going on the road for 500 payoffs and having to pay road expenses out of that, since the downside guarantee for someone like him would be very little. The night a week thing allows him to get his wrestling fix while he also still works his shoot job. So it's kind of wild that he's like, the pay's not worth it for me to go to WWE.
Well, I remember for a few people that's just how it was. It was like, you know, having to pay for your travel stuff is legitimately, like, pretty insane. It just reminds me of the Bailey interview every time someone brings that up.
Oh god, that popped into my head yesterday as well. I can't even remember why. But yeah, her sitting there awkwardly with the person being like, oh, is that not covered in your collective bargaining agreement? And Bailey's like, no!
It's like, we do it for the universe.
We're very well looked after. It's like, you have to drive yourself from show to show and then put yourself up in a hotel? And she's like, yeah. And then the interviewer's like, that's insane.
Yeah. It's always fun when the real world gets a glimpse into the wrestling business.
Let's just see the bizarre ways in which this industry operates.
Like, I forget who did the big piece on the union stuff and on, like, the Saudi Arabia stuff.
Oh, was it Last Week Tonight?
Sure.
John Oliver's show?
Yes. I didn't actually know what his show was called. But, like, that's so funny because, like, so many people sent me that.
You're the wrestling guy. Have you heard of this?
Yeah, like, did you know? And I'm like, yeah, we all know.
We are aware of the state of which the industry operates in.
Trust me, we're desperate for them to do something about it, but no one does.
That's what we call a monopoly in the industry, my friends.
I think we're allowed to have those, Garrett. Where's the fair trade?
This is the free market, Liam. It's operating as intended.
Wow, looks like we're all paying for the free market.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Yeah, I'm teaching a college course. Please come listen to it.
Liam's masterclass on social politics.
Welcome to my TED Talk.
Your TNA talk. Yeah, that's something.
My Ted Turner talk.
I wish Ted Turner got back in the wrestling business. Created a new company.
Oh, you want him to be the third company?
Yeah, Ted Turner, just do it again.
I saw, like, some people, and I'm sure it was a joke, but I found it very funny, who got, like, faux mad at Mark Cuban for trying to make affordable medicine instead of starting a pro wrestling company.
Wait, he has two choices. It's like affordable medicine or wrestling company. Obviously you choose the wrestling company, right?
I mean, for us, right?
It seems like the natural choice.
Yeah, especially since we would have booked it, obviously.
So those are your main news notes for the month. The big one being that TNA are starting to offer contracts.